All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. We have our favorite astrologer, Ness, joining us for our October forecast. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine. I'm feeling very hopeful and glad to be out of September's energies.
Yeah. I'll say, well, and we're going to break it down and talk about, transits and things going on in October. But yes, September was very heavy. I do feel like there's still a lot of heaviness and significance kind of going into October. It doesn't feel like it's a boring month. Um, but I think everybody's kind of feeling that way with everything going on in the world and in the US right now too. So
Yeah, I think
feels
the
like it's a
energies,
significant part to the end of this year.
yeah, we have some couple acts still left before the year gets wrapped up, certain flavors happening.
Hmm.
But yeah, this week was pretty heavy. It was a pretty
Yeah.
heavy week in terms of a lot to process, especially for those that are empathetic, can feel that those collective energies and
Mm.
feel folks reacting and responding. I watched The View this week, the women on The View, and they
Hmm.
had just watched the military speech with
Oh
Pete
yeah.
and Trump, and then they just went on air. So they just watched it live and they didn't really have a chance to process their emotions. And there was a point where Joy Behar on the show sort of just freaked out. She was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is the beginning of the end. Like this is it." And her other co-hosts had to calm her down and say, "No, no, no, we can still have hope. We can."
Yeah.
But I
I've
that
been
was just
feeling that way doing my readings too, and a lot of the
oh,
comments and
interesting.
questions that have kind of come in, this
Yeah.
hopelessness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in the work that we do, yes, the day-to-day can feel pretty intense, can feel very, maybe can trigger emotions, but when you have
Yeah.
that longer view, when you have that broader view, whether through astrology or whether through, tarot or kind of psychic hits, you know, life is happening for us,
Mm.
not to us. And so I want to say, folks, if things are pretty heavy right now, feel free to take a break from the news,
Yeah, for
ground,
sure.
go out in nature, make your favorite meals, especially fall. A lot of pumpkin recipes right now.
Yes.
I've got my eye on a sweet potato pumpkin pie with a pecan crust this year.
Oh,
I
that
want to
sounds
I want to
good.
tackle that. Yeah. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say even for myself, I identify most strongly with being very empathic myself. And yeah, it's kind of like sleepless nights too, waking up every night at like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and then can't go back to sleep till 5 or 6. The last couple weeks, it's been like that for me. So yeah, kind of really just taking it kind of a step back, taking it a bit easy, distracting yourself from all of the instability going on in the world and just
mhm,
focusing on in that heart center, the things that you love, the things that bring you joy.
mhm.
Um,
How was your eclipse season? I know some folks reported very interesting dreams. Were you one of those that had
oh
very
yeah,
interesting dreams?
I'm
Okay.
yeah, and I'm not typically one that remembers my dreams too, but
Mm.
I feel like a lot of things being released and kind of processing that. I think that that's why I've been kind of waking up and not able to fall right back to sleep. A lot of things coming to the surface.
Yeah, I had a dream that I basically interacted with everyone I believe I ever met. It was like a
Mm,
4 hour dream. Yeah, I don't know if folks ever have
interesting.
those really long dreams. Where like, whoa, what just happened? And then I was on a show yesterday. I was like, in the chat with Annette and Linda, and someone had posted a similar question. They had what they thought was a life review dream.
Mm,
And I thought, oh, that's a pattern. And then I actually had another reader look at it. And they said that that was probably you're exiting a life cycle and you're going on to a new life cycle. So
something
this
new
is like
coming
a
in, yeah.
wrap up, yeah, to kind of reflect. So, folks, if you've been having very interesting dreams, especially dreams that felt like life reviews where you were meeting people from the past,
Mm,
with this paradigm shift that's happening right now, we are meant to exit old timelines and narratives and enter new timelines and narratives. So, that whole past kind of
yeah.
coming up a bit is very much, you're right on schedule for those type of
Well, we're
energies.
in a nine universal year too, so we're kind of closing some chapters. 2026 will be about new beginnings, right?
Yes, and there's a lot
So
of
kind of going into that
fire.
aspect too. Yeah. Oh, fire. So
There's a
action.
lot of fire in
Okay.
2026. Jupiter goes into Leo, and it does a nice healthy trine with Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So there's a lot of fire, a lot of action, a lot less sitting on the sidelines, less sitting on your hands, and more kind of getting in the ring and
Yeah.
making action. So I would say, especially right now, we're thinking, we're opening our minds, we're considering more things that are possible than what we've considered
Mm,
before. But especially summer of next year, we're really narrowing in and just doing something with that, making a
Well,
choice, making a decision. So yeah,
interesting too, because that will be kind of leading up to the midterms and, primary season's coming up too. So a lot of new leadership, you know.
a lot of fireworks, we'll say as well.
Hmm.
A
For
lot of,
sure. So do you
um,
have anything going on that you want everybody to know about?
Yeah, let me go ahead and share. I have just, I guess, three key themes that I want to talk about. One
Sure.
is I have my calendar that's been doing really well. It's a personalized astrology calendar, and it has basically this planetary path that I create for some of these shows will be
Mm.
overlaid on top of your natal chart. I will be sending you one, Kevin, so you don't even worry
Oh,
about
thank you.
on this one. But it will have it for each month, and so you'll get a sense of how the path of the planets are impacting you, whether they're on top of you, whether they're opposing your placements, whether they're kind of squaring. You can kind of do the math there, and then we'll
Mm.
also have some information about the full moon and new moon and how to work with it given your rising sign. So it's more personalized to you. And so I have
Interesting.
a couple set of those. I'm only making 142 left, and I'm not making any more. I might open it up again in February. But otherwise, I'm just, that's all I can do. And if for folks that really find value of it, this will kind of meet them and help guide them for that whole 2026 year. I also
Yes.
have my manifestation class coming up, which is very, I love this class. It's very inspiring about just pragmatic things you can do to kind of start to do smaller exercises to work up to
Mm.
bigger things. Often, folks, I think manifestation fails because you might have asked too much or you might ask in a different
Sometimes you
way. And
overthink it.
yeah, it can be very binary. Oh, it doesn't work, so I'm
Hmm.
not going to try it or et cetera. So we kind of break it down to kind of key components, and we have these like core beliefs that are helping you kind of unlock it and soften your approach with it. So like here's a core belief that was mind blowing for me on my own journey, which was because we have a lot of resources in the wings. We have our
Hmm.
ancestors, spirit guides, higher beings, angels, etc. But because as a species we have free will, they won't intervene until we ask. And so that's
Mm.
something that we talk about in the class. And that was really mind-boggling for me. Is like, oh yeah, you can ask for it. Don't
Yeah.
feel shameful. It's possible. So we have room for folks who want to join on 11/11. We have an AM and PM session, so we can find one that fits your time. And then I'm also offering personal readings for astrology, and the one I'm really special around is the paradigm shift. So if you've experienced a lot of change this year, especially the first part of this year, like November 2024,
Mm.
I've experienced a lot of change personally. I imagine Kevin, you've experienced a lot of
Yes.
change. We've talked about it, before camera, and so yeah, if you've been experiencing a lot of change, there's an astrological framework that actually can break it down a little bit more. And it's very, very positive, actually. It's a 2 year shift where key planets kind of come together, and there's actually a narrative arc with it. So we can
Mm.
unpack what this is for you and what that overall narrative arc is. So then you can, you're not so surprised by these changes. You're not so shocked by it. You can kind of face it head on and be empowered as opposed to just, letting it drive the car in different
Yeah.
ways. So
Kind of prepare
that,
yourself for it a little bit
yeah. And then
and
one other
embrace
thing,
it. Yeah.
yeah. One other thing I want to talk about too is a book that I read that's connected to our spiritual world. John Edwards, the psychic, the kind of Hollywood-esque psychic, or he had that TV show Crossing Over back in the day. He wrote a book with another an FBI agent, Robert Hilland, and
Mm.
this book was released last week, and it's very riveting. It's basically the work that they both did. So he was kind of this unofficial resource for this FBI agent for almost 3 decades, and he helped him solve cases. And the book is just riveting. It almost
Oh,
feels like
interesting.
a true crime type of,
Yeah.
novel where you just walk through these cases and you'll be surprised some of the famous cases that John Edwards was really helpful with. So, folks, especially in the winter when you want to kind of go inward and be a little bit more gothic, like
Mm.
this is a great one for that, or even for Halloween when you want to be a little bit spooked.
Or
And
if you're
every
feeling a
chapter,
bit overwhelmed with everything going on, a good distraction, getting in a good book.
yes, very much so. So I just
Interesting.
wanted to shout that out for folks who want another, fiction or nonfiction to read. What about you?
Awesome.
What's on your schedule?
Well, I did just fill up my Holy Fire level 1 and 2 class that I have later this month and into November. Um, I will start a wait list if anybody's interested. If I have any dropouts, I can create a wait list. So please send me an email, kevinlovingvibrations@gmail.com. It's in the description box. And then I will have another level 1 and 2 class January of 2026. So that will be a fun time as we're kind of getting into our New Year's resolutions and focusing in on what's serving us and what we want to bring into the new year. I think bringing some Reiki would be very empowering and supportive, a wonderful tool to have kind of going into the new year. So I do have a class on my website for January, and I'm also going to be teaching my first Holy Fire Master Level class. Right now, I have it set November 28th, 29th, and 30th. So it's actually a 3-day class. It is Thanksgiving weekend. I figured, it's a long weekend. So if anybody's free and wants to join, you do have to be a level 2 Reiki practitioner. You can be from any lineage for at least 6 months and have your level 2 symbols memorized. You'll want to have a good understanding and practice before taking the class. But if you have any questions about your readiness or the class, um, information's on the website, or you can send me an email. I'd be happy to help. If it's a hard weekend because it's a holiday weekend, I may actually do it in January of 2026. If that works better for you, you can send me an email. But we're gonna just kind of play it by ear,
Okay.
see if
Okay.
anybody's
Yeah.
interested. And I have
I
opens for readings and Reiki sessions for October. For the rest of the year, you can book on my website for that.
Yeah, I actually had two clients this past week who had taken your Holy Fire
Oh,
Reiki
interesting.
Reiki
Yeah.
one, and because we were looking at their chart and we were seeing that they're actually having a bit of a spiritual awakening, like, oh, your moon is doing
Yes.
this and etc. And then they were like, yeah, actually, I just took your Reiki class, and they were
Interesting.
surprised about the transformation it sort of kicked up because as much as you're learning that craft, you are kind of being transformed as you learn that
Mm-hmm.
craft, and you're having
Absolutely.
your own spiritual awakening with. So they're actually kind of unpacking things themselves, which will allow them to be really in service when they offer that to other
Mhm.
people as well. So,
Yes, the classes are deeply healing and transformative.
yeah.
We do a couple healing experiences that get you in the right place for our placements. And that's the ceremony that allows you to channel Reiki energy. So a
Mhm.
lot of shifting and adjusting. Um, and it does take a while, I think, too, to kind of integrate this new energy in.
Mhm.
So it's kind of supportive on your journey as well. Um, yeah, I did just finish up a class, and I love the group discussions and hearing everybody's experiences. It was a pretty powerful class.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. Sharing
It's
love and compassion with the world and finding that empowerment during these troubling times.
yeah, that
A
high
wonderful
high
gift to kind of
vibration.
help shift things right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you learn tarot or you take a psychic development class, you're not really having this big transformative experience. You're
Mm,
just sort of learning a tool. But this type of training, I've heard so many times, more so than not, that they've been transformed while they're learning this. So it's an interesting,
yeah.
you get a 2-for-1 type of thing.
Absolutely helps with the intuitive development. I don't think I would be on YouTube right now if it wasn't for my level 1
Mm,
Asui class because it was absolutely life changing for me. Really
mm,
helped me to get out of the fear and just trust that this is the path that Spirit wants me to go on, starting my channel. Um, and also, too, the intuitive hits became a lot stronger with it. It kind of goes hand in hand, you know.
yeah. That
So,
makes sense. Cleans you out.
mhm.
Yeah. So with
So what do we
that,
got
let's
going on for October?
Oh my goodness. I know folks September's eclipse season, might have really, knocked you sideways. It was a lot of
Mm,
energies. It was a lot of integration. And, when I was on your show last month, I was saying how when I first thought about eclipse season this year, I was like, oh, whatever, it's eclipse season. But we had really major, transits and aspects that happened in 2025. So this will just be a walk in the park. But then as I unpacked it, I realized this eclipse season is the release valve for all those energies
interesting.
that happened in those previous months. So a lot of folks responded, especially in the chat and other uh, sessions I did this week, that the eclipse season was pretty epic and pretty
Yeah.
transformative. This probably was one of the eclipse seasons they felt in a while, like they might not have felt the previous ones. And so very interesting dreams. A lot of people reported dreams, reported maybe some health issues because of Virgo aspects,
Mm,
wanting to clean, wanting to organize, and then also the collective, we just had a double dose on the last few days of September in terms of political events and
yeah.
trying to hold light and hold hope in different ways. But October will be a much needed relief. October
Mm.
and November too. I would say part of November is this beautiful integration of those energies of eclipse season, and we'll kind of go right into it. Did you
Yeah.
want to talk about your high level energies for?
Yeah, I got some hits. Can I just ask though, with the energy shifting and releasing with the eclipse, it can
Yes.
sometimes take several months for that to happen too. So,
Yes. Yes. It's kind of like with Reiki, when you move energy, then something
mhm.
else will fall into its place, and then when you unblock this, then something
Yeah,
else will be able to be released. So,
kind
very
of
much
bringing
with
those
eclipse
things to the
season.
surface. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Something got lodged, which you will feel the immediate effects, which people
yeah.
felt, restless nights, interesting dreams. And then the unfolding will begin in terms of the coming week. So I would say October and half of or most of November is a big, more acute integration of
Mm.
eclipse energy. But yes, it usually takes 6 months to really integrate all the things that
All the
happen with
changes. Yeah.
eclipse season. Yeah. But yeah, I would say October is not like it's a complete walk in the park. It's not,
Hmm.
tumbleweeds. But
I
I would
feel
say,
pretty significant. I
yeah, I
feel
would some
major stuff happening.
yeah, there's actually some beautiful trines happening. So a lot of breakthroughs,
Mm.
I would say, some clear peaks that are happening in October. But I would say the overall, somatic experience would be, much more dialed down than what eclipse season was in
Okay.
terms of those energies. So we're not out of the woods yet, but I would say we're kind of heading out of the woods in terms of those
Mm.
energies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to share some of your high level hits
Yes.
about October? Yeah.
Some of the things that I was picking up, and one was actually pretty interesting. I've really enjoyed us getting together monthly. And a couple months ago, I think we were focusing it on August or September. And all of a sudden, my guides just put October in my head. I'm
Mm.
bringing my awareness to October. And then I saw the death card from the tarot. Now, for me, I mean, it can mean physical, death or symbolic. It feels very transformative, but I am also kind of picking up of a sadness, almost like a collective grief. So I
Mm.
wouldn't be surprised, I feel like there's going to be more earth activity,
Mm.
earthquakes. I'm almost feeling like a significant flooding event too.
Mm.
Um, and I think you said that there was a lot of water movement too, so that kind of resonates. Um, then we have, all of the military stuff going on in the world and Trump wanting to send the military to democratic cities. We have protests. But I do feel like there's some suffering and sadness collectively. Is kind of what I'm picking up on with the death card. I also thinking that there's a world leader that's about to transition. I was feeling more so like pulled over towards Europe, but something a significant passing for a world leader. Um, Maybe it's not October, maybe it's in the next month or two. Timing's always a bit
Goes
hard,
into November. Yeah.
but it's also very interesting. And I'm kind of feeling back and forth because, like I said, I'm feeling a heaviness and a sadness. But also, if you break down November 2025, it goes to a 19 which is the Sun card in the tarot, the major arcana.
Mm.
And so there's a lot of success and breakthroughs, and I'm feeling a lot of more corruptions or things that are hidden being illuminated. Kind of going into the Epstein stuff. I'm
Yeah.
feeling some kind of financial corruption being uncovered as well. Do you feel like the economy? I'm not feeling a crash, but I do feel like it's maybe readjusting and trending a little bit down towards the middle to end of the month.
Yeah.
Um,
Similar. I've never really felt a strong crash. I've felt
no, I have not
wobbliness.
either.
I feel the
Yeah,
emotional reaction to the wobbliness is more
mm,
substantial than the actual on paper
yeah,
wobbliness of the economy. Yeah.
for sure. Um, and I'm also feeling like we may start to see a shift with the Ukraine and Russia wars. That was coming through. Um, I don't know if this is like the downfall of Putin, which is the death card. I'm not. I think death is kind of hard to predict, but I do see it kind of starting to be a turning point. For the better for Ukraine.
Interesting.
Maybe even some NATO involvement. I'm not feeling like troops on the ground, but NATO being pretty significant with the breakthroughs.
Yeah. I would imagine they want to be more involved as Russia's now testing their boundaries with
Yeah,
NATO. They're kind
for
of
sure.
like almost like a child doing this little bit, or like,
Hmm.
made you look with the, I mean, it's not that they're doing literally that, but the drones kind of going into those spaces.
Yeah, into their
Um,
airspace,
yeah,
kind
into
of
the
testing
aerospace,
the waters. Yeah.
testing the waters. I think they turned off the electrical. Like, I think they threw an EMP at the EU leader or something like that, or
Oh
they
yeah,
jammed the radio.
they
It was
try to
about almost,
jam. Yeah,
yeah, 2 weeks ago, but they're kind of poking NATO more so than
hmm.
focusing their attention just strictly on Ukraine. So I think
Maybe some retaliation there or involvement. And I
yeah,
and I also feel, and we don't always get into like the politics. I like that we kind of go into the collective
yeah, that
energies
high
for
level.
you
Yep.
personally, but then also kind of what's going on in the world. But I do see more focus in on Trump's health,
Mm.
um, maybe more illumination on that. And I almost feel like those around him are really starting to talk about, um, he's not going to be around forever. They're trying to come up with a strategy and deals. I kind of see JD Vance trying to work the cabinet, for possible removing
He's
him. So
he's really trying to Vance's speeches the past 2 weeks is really inflammatory, where he's really trying to feed into like the lowest common denominator of his own base. Or
hmm,
maybe it's not appropriate for me to say that, like the lowest common denominator, but he's using polarizing language where um, I feel like he's just trying to get some emotional reaction out of them, like please choose me as a leader, as opposed
hmm,
to trying to be moderate or trying to play both games, both the short term and the long term game. I think he had a speech recently about like, oh, the other side calls us Nazis and stuff like that. If we disagree
hmm,
with them, we're a Nazi. And like, I think that just really flattens the argument in terms of what's really happening. And so
yeah,
I think, yeah, you picking up on Trump's health, even his speech that he gave at the military,
he
um,
looks awful,
he looked, and it's
just
interesting.
deranged,
He
incoherent.
I think part of that speech, though, why he was also a bit more the wheels were coming off the cart, is he feeds off of that call and
Hmm.
receive,
He was
that back
getting
and forth,
nothing.
and he was
Hmm.
getting nothing. They can't really do that. And Heather Cox Richardson had a video yesterday. Love Heather Cox Richardson. She's a
Hmm.
historian on YouTube for folks who are not familiar with her. And she did a video yesterday, and she talked about the different tiers of the military, where a lot of the junior folks are really like more followers of Trump and more like,
Mm.
will have that more response with him, but more of the middle and senior leadership of the military, they outweigh presidents. They've been there for a while, like yeah,
Yeah.
you're here, but there's going to be someone else in place. And so I think when Trump was having that speech and he's not able to receive that validation from the audience the way
Mhm.
he normally does. I remember in the first Trump election for the presidential run that, or not run, sorry, his actual presidency, he often, when he was having a bad day, they would throw him out on the campaign and just like go out and meet folks, and then he would kind of
Mhm.
pep up in different ways. And so I wouldn't be surprised. A big part of his misstep with the speech and how his energy was so low was because he wasn't receiving validation. But if you look at all his speeches the past week or so, linguistically, you can see that he's declining. Like
Mhm.
it's there's something happening with how he forms his words. The sentences are much more simpler. He
He just
in
looks
how
exhausted too.
he looks, yeah, he does look tired. He really, really looks tired. And
And we haven't really seen him much with this government shutdown. I was kind of getting that
that's
hit
what folks are saying. I don't want
yesterday.
to I don't want to put too much light onto that, but
Right.
folks
No,
are
I
like
agree.
they haven't seen him in 48 hours or something like that. I think once that whole
Mhm.
thing happened 2 weeks ago and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, what happened
I
to
think that
him?"
he was getting some procedures there. I just don't feel like he's
Okay.
very well right now.
Yeah.
But when they did the press conference and I think Vance was there, I almost felt like, okay, well, they're starting to put him in that position,
Yes.
and kind of testing those waters. That's where I was getting the hits like, okay, the cabinet knows that. Um,
Yeah, he's always now within frame. He's like,
yeah.
Trump could be
Or like
speaking, but
Melania
Vance
is
is right
always with
there.
them. Yeah.
Yes, and then all of a sudden Melania's back, where she was
Mhm.
missing for the first 108 days or something like that. So,
Yeah. But I see a lot of talking behind the scenes about possibly replacing him. He's not doing well, trying to
mm,
kind of come up with some kind of coalition or deals to be made.
yeah,
Contingency plans is what I just heard in my ear.
interesting.
Um, so I think we're going to hear more about that too. I think it'll be
Yeah.
an interesting month. We have the No Kings protest, and I'm thinking that
Yes.
that's going to be huge.
Yes.
Probably one of the biggest
I
protests for
and
our
we looked
country,
at
I feel
the
like.
astrology that day or right before, and yes, there's a big event that happens astrologically. So I would validate what you're saying that the No
Yeah,
Kings protest. So yeah, obviously, folks, trust your intuition in terms of going out in the crowds and when you want to leave or when it
for
feels safe or
sure.
not. But I would expect this might be unprecedented size in terms of
Hmm.
the No Kings protest. And going back to Ukraine and Russia, what you were talking about, I know
Yeah.
this past week, Russia started their another wave of conscript of enlisting soldiers. I think the first time in a year, and the
Okay.
numbers came out about how many soldiers have been injured and killed. I think it's over 1 million so far, which is pretty
Wow.
high when you
Yeah.
think about that youth population that's available to be enlisted. It's possibly like maybe my goodness gracious, I wouldn't say like 8%, 5%, or 10% of the youth population is was pulled in and injured by the war. And so I think you are picking up on that. Both they're trying to poke the bear with NATO, but then their
Hmm.
economy is hurting, and then they're having a hard time having boots on the ground in different ways for
Interesting.
Russia.
Yeah.
So that
And
will be
Putin's been coming to my psyche the last couple months, and I do think that we're going to really start to see the downfall of Putin here um, shortly.
interesting. He has a health condition from what I read
Yeah, he doesn't
unconfirmed
feel
online.
well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And there's also suspects of whether or not that was him in Russia with Trump like a month ago,
Yeah,
or if it
I
was
was
a
kind of feeling that it may not have been, but you have to be
yeah.
careful with the conspiracy theories.
Yes,
But
exactly. The unfounded things. But
yes.
yeah, I think some of the things you're picking up of about the death card in October because we're starting to enter Scorpio season. So that's
Mm.
very much what
Well,
must
that's a
die.
death card too. Yeah,
Yeah, what must die so new things
transformation.
exactly. And then there's some astrological events around clarity and things coming to light. So I think that matches both the Sun card and the Epstein files hits you had as well.
Mm.
But we'll get into it. Let's go ahead and
Yeah.
go into October's astrology. And for folks who are not familiar with me, I visit Kevin's show once a month and we just talk about the collective energies. So I bring that astrological point of view about what's happening with the collective energies. And then Kevin brings his hits or his tarot and kind of what he
Hmm.
feels from that on that collective level. So whenever you're looking at collective energies, folks, you also want to look at your chart. You want to just see what else is happening on your chart. So both things are true. The collective is a viable energy, especially if you're empathetic and you kind of feel those energies when people are having those high highs or low lows. But then it also makes sense to look how some of these aspects happen on your natal placements.
Yeah.
So
And
this is
oftentimes I'll just say when you actually bring up the events for the month
yeah,
and you just start talking about it, it helps me to get into that intuitive channel too, where I'm getting a lot of insight too.
yeah, like hits on top of hits type of thing. Yeah.
Hmm. Yep.
Very much happens. So I'm going to just zoom over here for folks who want to look at the planetary path. So this is a visual that I create for each month. So this is where Venus will start October 1st. This is where Venus will end October 31st. Same over here. The sun will start here. It will end there. And then you can kind of get a sense of how these planets sort of aspect and connect for the overall month. And so when you look at that, and you look at the astrology of October, there are three key flavors, three kind of main themes. One is the first part of October will be a focus on relationships, diplomacy, justice. There's a lot of breakthroughs in relationships, finances, values. We're going to have a couple things happen. Venus will do nice little trine with Pluto and Uranus. We have a lot of Libra placements, which is a focus on relationships. And starting to approach a Venus Cazimi. So there's something about how people come together, how people, negotiate those contracts. And so there could be some breakthroughs both with the budget, the
Mm.
government shutdown, but
Yeah.
also with Gaza, also possibly with Ukraine. So I'll unpack that further. And then we also have Mars and Mercury for the second part of October, really getting close and eventually conjunct with each other. And they both are in Scorpio. Same thing we said earlier, Kevin, the death card, where it's really about getting to the bottom of things, unearthing things, revealing secrets, revealing truths. And when they both are
Yeah.
here, what we're going to have both at the collective level, but also your individual level, is like sharp clarity, piercing communications, uncovering hidden motives. Who are your friends or who are your enemies? Very much carrying over on this first theme about relationships and diplomacy, etc. And
Yeah.
then we end the month on this beautiful water sign trine. So we have this increase on intuition, emotions, spirituality. We're going to feel a lot more emotionally connected. We
Mm.
could feel more reactive too. So maybe post King's Day, we might feel emotionally reactive to how
Yeah.
we came together or how we feel connected with each other. And this is one of three water sign trines that we're going to experience. The first one starts in October, and then two more start in November. And so there's something about like the veil being really thin during this time, which is
Mm.
very appropriate because that's Halloween.
Do you
That's one of
feel
the. Go
do you
ahead.
feel healing too, with all this
Yes.
water
I
too?
feel with Scorpio too, Scorpio's a water sign, but
Mm.
these things are meant to be uncovered. These things are meant to be revealed, transformed for healing, for our
Yeah.
highest good. So I would say both with this Mars and Mercury and Scorpio, but also this water sign trine is going to be healing and kind of allow us to turn the page and move
Yeah.
on to better and bigger things. So that's at a high level, folks. So this is a great one if you want to take a photo of. This is like your single shot about October. When we get into October and looking at key dates, these are the ones that I want you to focus on. This one's going to be the new moon in Libra. This is important because it's the first new moon after eclipse season. So it's a big thing about, again, turning the page, starting anew,
Mm.
especially with the inner energies we were integrating. And then we have the water sign trines towards the end of the months. You're going to have a sense of that emotional spirituality, kind of deeper intuition, connecting and feeling versus thinking in different ways. We have an air sign trine, which is that thinking, breakthroughs in relationships, values, etc. And then we have the new moon in, sorry, the full moon in Aries, which is important, but I won't spend a lot of time on it. And then I kind of loop this into this water sign trine, but we're having this event the day after King's March, or the King's speech. I'm sorry, King's protest, right? That's what, no
No
King's
kings.
protest.
Hmm.
Mars and Scorpio will conjunct Mars in, Mercury and Scorpio will conjunct Mars in Scorpio. So that's a very illuminating day
Mm.
of getting to the truth, wanting to go to the truth. And I wouldn't be surprised if people coming together is going to almost give permission for folks to ask more. I wouldn't be surprised too with this relationship breakthroughs or maybe post this day that the Epstein files will be voted on in particular too.
Interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, that would be very illuminating with that middle part. Um, I'm curious, did you want to pull cards on the No Kings protest in terms of the energies there?
Yeah. Let's throw a couple
Mhm.
cards.
Yeah. I mean, every one of these No Kings protests have been growing larger and larger in numbers. So
Mm.
I'm very curious because I imagine a lot of veterans might be in the crowd because of the
Yeah.
speech.
I think it's interesting too. I'm glad that they're actually, because we had the bigger protests, I think, early summer, and then they started putting them on like weekdays, like a Thursday. And I don't think that the press has been really covering it a lot too, mainstream media. But I feel a big illumination on this protest. It feels like it's record breaking.
Mhm. I feel that too.
I think people have just had enough with this administration.
I see posters, really
Justice.
creative posters being brought out.
People are
Oh.
fighting, speaking their truth with justice, fighting for what's fair, what they believe in. Temperance.
Hmm.
People trying to come together and balance.
It's funny, those two cards back to back are balance.
Mm-hmm. Two of Swords, so people feeling at a crossroads, stuck.
Mm.
This feels very empowering with the Justice card. But I do feel I've been saying it, and I hope I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Um, but with the protests, I do feel like there may be a response from Trump too, and I think that that's what he's been gearing up with, sending the military to a lot of the Democratic cities.
Oh,
Because I feel like he does something that's a step too far, where even Republicans start to turn on him and can't support the
oh,
actions. So that's where you
interesting.
said earlier about using your awareness and just being really aware of the energy around you. And I think it's important that we do all stand up and fight for what we believe in. But just be very aware of your surroundings, I think, too. Because I do pick up that there's some fear here, Nine of Swords, that feels a bit heavy.
Mhm.
Ten of Wands, we have a heavy burden on our shoulders. And then we're feeling a bit restricted too. So there's a lot of stress I'm feeling with these swords.
Those are
I
like the
wouldn't
most
be
stress.
surprised.
Those are the most stress cards back to back. Just
Hmm.
that is
So,
so.
but the thing is he's going to, the more and more he fights back, the more people stand up. the more people start to really resist his administration too. So he's not going to be successful with silencing us. Um, it's just, it's a
I,
build, is what I
I
feel.
I think that's part of the MO of his archetypal energy, though, is like I'll
Hmm.
be the bully, and I'm expecting you won't fight back. I'm
Well, right.
expecting you'll just take it in different ways.
Yeah. So I am feeling a bit cautious with the protest because it does feel like it's unprecedented. Um, and him really trying to kind of squash the movement. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't see it working though. I think it just continues to build and more people are going to stand up.
But
So,
I think that's an interesting thing that you point out, like these chess moves of
mhm,
if the speech, yesterday was not just about the ICE protests, the protests that happened right outside those ICE detention agencies, but anticipating, oh, maybe we'll set these chess moves so we can have some sort of photo op moment about a protest coming up, like the No Kings protests. That
mhm,
makes sense that that could be good testing ground for them to kind of do some of these things so they can
mhm.
push the narrative that they want. So that's
Yeah.
very interesting.
When I think well, you were talking too about maybe coming to agreements and like the budget passing or something like that, negotiations with that. I was feeling like it was going to be a very short shutdown, and I'm still feeling that way.
Same,
I
same.
almost feel like it will be
Astrologically,
resolved within like 2 weeks tops.
yes, that astrologically, that's what I see too. 2, 3 weeks. Like it won't go beyond
Mm,
October. And with astrology, it's probabilities. It's not like
mm,
set in stone, but it's like a high chance given the astrological elements. If not, there's something that happens in November. There's another water sign trine. So that
oh, interesting.
it could happen basically by the,
Well,
when that
I
happens.
think it's
Yeah.
just a CR too, where they're pushing the can down the road, and I think they'd have to vote on it again
You,
in
you
November.
know,
So maybe that's interesting.
it's an interesting fight because I think both sides are almost not, I don't want to make them both equal, like both sides, but this fight
Mhm.
is different than how it was previously. I think
Yeah.
in the past 24 hours, Trump has announced that he's going to start cutting agencies in the
Hmm.
government that are pro-Democrat. And as much as like he can rescind that, it's like blood in the water type of thing. Like you went
Yeah.
to a threshold that we didn't expect you. And so it almost will inflame. I think, when you're having two people and they're negotiating, when you go even more than the other person thought you would sometimes you don't back down. Sometimes you might even dig in your heels more,
Hmm.
because you can see how extreme this negotiation is now.
Yeah.
So
But I was bringing up the budget, the shutdown,
yeah.
because I think it's going to end shortly before the No Kings protests, and I think the
Oh,
energy is going to be really ramped up, and people are going to, get out to
oh,
protest,
interesting.
peacefully
Well, because
protest.
and I have this hit of I wonder if the government shutdown will sort of almost come with the guarantee that that last Democrat would be sworn into. Like there's no shenanigans
Mm.
associated
Oh,
with that.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
so if there's some sort of, if, whether it's overt or not, like there could be something else. We'll sign this, but also make sure that doesn't have a delay to like spring of next year. I don't think it's going to go that
Mm.
far,
I don't see it that far.
but then if the government shutdown gets passed and then maybe this person gets sworn in, we have two big bam things happening of
Mm.
the shutdown and the recovering wreckage from that of like who folk, which government roles are still there, how do you go back? But then we might even have the Epstein file release at the same time, which could be just this
Mm.
overwhelm right before the No Kings protest.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I did feel that they were going to release some of the files, but I will say I felt and I still feel um, it might be Putin or Russia, but another country releasing
That's so interesting.
some of the stuff.
I think Linda G saw that as well, that it was going to
Okay.
be another country.
It feels
Yeah.
like it's coming from overseas.
Oh, interesting. Because I mean, it would have to be a country that maybe doesn't, who has a vested interest in either creating chaos in America
Hmm.
or actually there's many motives. I can go on and on about that, but I
Right.
wouldn't be surprised about that. Let me go back into the astrology and talk about the this 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 thing first thing, this breakthrough of
Yeah.
relationships. So that's what we're having. Number three, I'm just going to talk on that one.
Hmm.
So this is something that will happen towards the middle of October, where we're going to have an air sign trine of Venus here, Uranus here, and Pluto. And when it comes to a trine, the image I want you to have is the Three of Cups. In Three of Cups, where there's like three
Mm.
women, but they're very joyous, and they're almost like caught in motion, like they're both dancing and etc. And so when it comes to a trine, I want you to imagine these planets are almost holding hands and they're like skipping into each section. It's like a flow of energy, but they're
Well,
very
and supportive too. It's like
they're
that
supportive.
friendship relationships with the Three of Cups. They all support each
They
other and
support
work
each
off each
other. They're
other.
happy and they're almost like taking off. Like I want you to think
Mm,
like that when they do, they almost like enter another dimension because of this positive formation. And so they're taking off and they're flowing. So it's like Venus is running over here, Venus is running over here, and Pluto and vice versa. And so that's the power of a trine, which is really positive in astrology. And so
mm,
when we have these elements together, there's a breakthrough of relationships. There's a different way of approaching things with relationships, with finances, with values. So we're as we approach this event on October 14th, we're having something about how we come together, how we negotiate, whether it's NATO and Russia, whether it's Ukraine
hmm
and Russia, Gaza and and Palestinians and Israel and etc. But also here in America, the budget, getting
Yeah,
making sure that the budget gets there's some sort of focus on relationships and where are we friends and where are we both going towards a common goal and where are we enemies. And also in your personal life, you're going to be really clear about who is your ally, who's supporting you, and then who is not supporting you, like who is maybe taking from you in different ways, and it's not a
mhm,
reciprocal relationship. It's funny, John Edwards earlier when I talked about this book, he's been on the campaign trail for the book, and someone asked him about his predictions for the rest of 2025, and he said like I see one, is he saw people splitting friendship groups and social groups and joining new social groups. There's something
oh,
about this
interesting.
musical chairness of, hey, it's not this acrimonious split of, oh, I hate you, you betrayed me. It's more like, hey, we're not having the same values. We're not heading the same direction. And I'm going to go towards people that are more like-minded. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this is a big part of that theme of us being more
Interesting.
around
We're kind of
like-minded.
saying that too. Like if we get into the politics, the Democratic Party is kind of fractured right now,
Very much so.
trying to figure out which direction we're going forward. And you're starting to see a lot of the MAGAs, or even like the podcasters, kind of getting into like these clips, starting to break up too.
Yes, the we see that with post Charlie Kirk as they try to make sense of it,
Yes.
but it's a lot of it is foreshadowing about this when Trump is gone, because I think his health
Mm-hmm.
issues are so apparent that folks are making what you said earlier, the contingency plans of,
Mm-hmm.
before I was pushing, as a podcast, I was pushing, pro-Trump content, and if he's not the leader anymore, well, then where does my revenue stream go? Like who do I actually? And so I think the split we're seeing with MAGA podcasters around the Charlie Cook shooting or just around Trump's health or how he's responding to Epstein and et cetera is the foreshadowing that we're going to see when Trump might not be in office anymore for
Yeah,
whatever
for
reason. Yeah.
sure. But
Yeah.
that was kind of hitting me with that too. Like we were talking about that,
Yeah.
may even more separation and trying to find new allies, people to
Yeah,
work with.
new ways to work. And
Mm,
the other event after that would be this water sign trine that is one of three water sign trines that we're experiencing. So similar what I said with the trine, it's like a bunch of
mm,
three forces running together, holding hands, almost like a maypole. Like, they're just skipping, they're very joyous, and they're
yeah.
entering another dimension because they're in this like collaboration with each other. And so the second trine that we're having is a water sign trine. And I love that this is a water sign trine because that one consequence of it is the veil will be thinner because of it, because water
Mm,
signs, emotions, intuition, spirituality. And this is a couple days before Halloween. And Halloween traditionally is a day when the veil is thinner. I've had
yeah.
very interesting woo-woo experiences on Halloween. The first Halloween that happened after my dad passed when I was a child, the doorbell kept ringing and no one was
Oh,
at the doorbell.
interesting.
And it was one of those, I had a house that was like a U, so my bedroom looked into the front door. And so I could sort of see if someone was there. And it just kept ringing for like on and off. Like for like the rest of the night into the morning, and we were like, oh my gosh, what's happening? But yeah, so the veil is definitely thin on
Hmm
Halloween, and then a couple days before, the veil will be thin with this beautiful water sign trine where we are invited to feel. We're invited to kind of breathe into our heart space and feel and use that wisdom as opposed to, our head or what we want to
hmm
do to feel safe in different ways. And so it's going to be Mercury and Mars and Scorpio. So things being revealed, piercing truths, piercing communications, Jupiter and Cancer, which is how we nurture ourselves, how we take care of ourselves. And then Saturn and Neptune in their last dip back into Pisces. And Pisces is like seeing the forest for the trees. So this is very positive, and this is one of three that are going to occur. The other two will occur in November. And so this is something to keep an eye out for. This is a great week, that final week in October, to kind of pull tarot, to sign up for a class, to book a psychic session with Kevin,
Mm,
and do a Reiki session with Kevin, because the veil will be thinner, so everything will be easier to kind of dial into, easier to kind of connect with someone across, easier to kind of get clarity about
yeah.
topics yourself. And so this is that second event that happens in October, this water sign trine that sort of manifests. And then the most event I want folks to pay attention to is this new moon in Libra, because the first new moon after eclipse season is a big deal. This is where
Mm,
we basically turn the page. We start new beginnings. And this is in Libra, which has to do with relationships and reciprocity, which is that theme that we're having in October of how we form alliances with other people. Are they happy alliances, both with the shutdown, with NATO, with Gaza?
hmm.
We can look politically, but also in your personal lives, everyone. You're really going to have a sense of who is really contributing to me. Where am I overgiving? Where am I undergiving? Like how to create balance in those relationships, which is actually very similar to the Temperance card and the Justice card you pulled as well,
Yeah.
Kevin, in terms of that
And
balance.
around the same time too, because it's the 21st, the protest is on the
Yes.
18th. So yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if people really have a positive, euphoric experience with this No Kings protest, where they feel like connected to their community and
Mm,
camaraderie in a way that they haven't before. Because that's a beautiful consequence when you go attend some of these larger protests, is like
yeah.
people are so nice to each other. They're like, someone's giving out
Well,
free food.
and it's kind of re-inspiring too, especially in a time where it's like, we have 20 things happen each day, and it's so overwhelming in the moment to kind of get through this. It's very deflating. We kind of, um, it's hard to keep that hope. So
Yeah.
then we're seeing all of these people coming together, and so it's very empowering.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of helping to re-inspire us too.
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if people have such a dose of authenticity and connection with either the No Kings
Mhm.
protests or just the activity around that, that they're able to look in their lives and get a sense of maybe where they don't experience that, where relationships are falling short in different ways.
Mm,
And they're wanting to align with people that match that vibration of we're going after the same things, of mutual reciprocity and fairness, as
yeah.
opposed to bully, conquer, or what, other things that I can get away with, which actually matches John Edwards' prediction for the
Oh,
rest of
interesting.
2025. So just be aware, folks. This is a beautiful time to manifest new beginnings. Like you've just went through this period of eclipse season, you can start to manifest what new relationships you want. Where do you want, fairness? Where do you want equitability? Where do you want to
Mm,
maybe show up and be a better person in relationships and be a better person in the community, to your neighbors, to your friends, etc. So I would say
yeah.
this is something that we'll recommend folks to pay attention to. Otherwise, the other one that I didn't quite make an event about, which is the 19th, this Mercury in
Okay.
Scorpio conjunct Mars in Scorpio. That'll be a great day for folks just to pull tarot, to ask questions, to receive a lot of clarity. And it's very likely around this date that's possibly when the Epstein files will be voted on and
Oh,
possibly be released.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
because I
that,
think it does take a week. I think it takes once they push um the discharge petition. I think it takes like a week for it to actually be forced on the floor.
oh,
So if
interesting.
that happens a week or two earlier, that's when the vote
Mhm.
would come up. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're feeling like the government shutdown would possibly be like 2 to 3 weeks, like kind of within October, collectively between
Yeah.
you and I. So that makes sense, because if it happens here, then yeah, it would happen within that week. So yeah,
It doesn't feel
that's
very long.
so that's the collective energies that I see for October. I would say, folks, it's going to feel much easier and much smoother
Mm,
to navigate through versus eclipse season versus September. We're also doing the work of integrating what happened, especially this last week of September. And we have these beautiful water sign trines happening the last week of October, and we have two more in November, which will be very positive to kind of go into your heart space, go into your feelings, feeling connected, feeling nourished. And also the veil will be very thin during this time, which is a beautiful moment of spirituality when you often
mm.
might feel alone or isolated, just to feel that, presence and feel that
Connection from
interconnectedness.
source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
one
I
of the most
love that.
beautiful things about the spiritual world, because it's not like they make the problems of your life smaller. They make what's possible bigger. And so
Hmm.
you feel like you can handle these things in your day to day because you're connected to this bigger life force or bigger energies.
Yeah. And we don't have to do it all on our own. Like you said earlier with the classes, we can reach out to our guides and angels and ask for their help, ask for their support. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, with
So,
that, yeah.
well, I love that the energy feels like it's kind of shifting to more positive, coming together, um, maybe not quite as polarized, but I like I said too, I do feel like it's pretty significant and maybe still a little unstable. Maybe we have some good days in the month, and then
Yeah.
like I said, I'm feeling a bit of a sadness, a grief kind of going into it. And like I said, the rest of the year and into spring of next year feels pretty significant for me.
Yeah,
For
some
us, not for me.
yeah. There's still some astrological energies to unfold for the rest of this
Hmm.
year. And even with the Scorpio placements with Mercury and Mars and Scorpio, Scorpio represents death, transformation,
Yeah.
what you have to let go of for new things to be born. So as much it is smoother, Scorpio season can be a bit, prickly in terms of those
Like I said,
energies.
it's a universal year for 2025. So we're getting to that place where we're ready to kind of move on and kind of close the door, and 2026 brings in new beginnings. So it's kind of like we're finishing up business, um, and then new opportunities will come in
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
next year. Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ness. I really enjoy our monthly shows. Kind of helps keep everybody prepared for things to expect, or how to plan and prepare. So I'm looking forward to seeing how October pans out, and we'll see. We'll meet up towards the end of the month and do our November forecast.
Yes, yes. I want to say one last message to folks. Just I know this past week has been really intense, and I
Mm,
just would say both with, Kevin and I from what we've seen and what we've done in this kind of spiritual world, sometimes the day to day can feel intense or prickly or kind of like the hope or the light can dim a bit. But when you can step back and have that larger view and you can have a sense that this is all moving towards our highest good. So I just want to send, grace for everyone
yeah,
and validation for what they're feeling. But I do feel this is unfolding eventually to our good. Yeah.
yeah. And I think just taking that time to be really still and in the moment, be really present, can be very helping to kind of center yourself during this energy. I think oftentimes, we're reflecting too much on the past and
Mhm.
things that we can't change. Not to
Yeah.
say that there can't be benefits. That's how growth and how we grow, and how we move forward.
Mhm.
There's progress from the past, but not putting too much of our awareness into the past, things that we can't change. And then sometimes they think even too, we think about, okay, well, that what's going on now is going to lead to this and this and this. And so then we start to place too much of our
Yeah.
awareness into the future, and that can
Yeah.
be very ungrounding and unsettling,
Yeah.
and really kind of get you in that downward spiral of the
Yeah.
mind kind of creating possibilities that kind of bring you down energetically, get you
Yeah.
in the fear response. So just breathe, center
Yeah.
yourself, come to the
It,
present.
it's like the shadow side of our really powerful imaginations. We can go
Yes,
vividly in the past and really understand and move back in time. And then we can also go to the future and visualize things, possibilities that is
yes.
not really
But
serving
if you're
us in the
going,
present
if you're
moment.
going to focusing on the future that you want to create,
Yeah.
visualize that and sit in that energy
Yeah.
rather than the what ifs.
Yeah. Then yeah, I would so. And
Create
also
that
folks,
future. Hmm.
feel free to, bake and cook some of those pumpkin fall goodies, like
Yes.
your apple pies. I actually just made some caramel for some apples. I make a lot of Granny Smith apples, or sorry, I
Hmm.
cut Granny Smith apples, because it's apple season here in California. But then I pair it with this really amazing salted caramel sauce. So yeah, folks, bake some of those fall treats,
Those
pumpkin
things that
spice
you love
lattes.
that
Yes.
kind of help distract you and uplift you.
Yeah.
I think laughter can be the quickest way to raise your vibration. So,
Yeah.
sometimes when you're with good company and, you just joke with each other, that can just kind of lighten the energy, see a funny movie, all that kind of stuff. Do the things that you love that inspire you. All right. You
Yeah.
all take good care. We'll see you in a few weeks, and, hang in there. We're going to get through this. I'm glad, like I said, that the astrology feels like it's more supportive going
Mhm.
forward for the month. So
Very much so. Yeah.
take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.